Medusa is a popular figure in Greek mythology. If you like Greek mythology, you have probably heard of Medusa. And if you've seen movies like Clan of Titan, Percy Jackson, you've probably seen Medusa. Her hair has turned into snakes. Anyone who looks at her becomes a stone. So today, we are going to tell you about the saddest story of Medusa. 1. Who is Medusa? Medusa was the daughter of Perseus and Ceto. She was born on an island named Sarpedon, which is thought to be somewhere in the general area of Sistine. It was known to have been one of the Gorgon sisters. However, unlike her other sisters named Steno and Euryale, Medusa was immortal and therefore vulnerable to the perils of the human world. The story of Medusa and her sister's transformation into the dreaded Gorgons is both tragic and insightful. However, her time as a beautiful maiden was not to last forever. Eventually, Medusa was known to have been transformed into a beast that would be feared by all because she was considered responsible for the desecration of Athena's temple. Because she had allowed herself to be defiled in Athena's temple, Athena transformed her into the most hideous of all the Gorgons and made her features so terrible to behold that she could instantly turn a man into stone if he were to gaze at her directly. While Medusa is known to be one of the most famous monsters in Greek mythology, there is relatively little that is recorded of her existence before she was beheaded by Perseus. Most of what we know of Medusa comes from her short time serving in Athena's temple and the way in which her head was used after she was beheaded by Perseus. Though her life itself may not have been given much consideration in ancient records, the many things that came from her death would go on to impact ancient mythology in countless ways. 2. How was Medusa transformed? To understand Medusa's transformation, it is important to first understand where she came from. Her history is very important in terms of context to what she became and how she impacted history. 3. Medusa's family. Medusa's family is known for their fierce features and impressive power. Her father, Perseus, was known to be a primordial sea god who had a fishtail, crab-like forearms, and red, spiky skin. Her mother, Ceto, was also a primordial sea goddess. Together, they were known to have birthed some of the most fearsome creatures in Greek mythology. Ceto and Perseus' offspring included Echidna, the Gorgons, the Graeae, and Ladon. Medusa was one of the Gorgon sisters, though unlike Euryale and Steno she was immortal. There are varying accounts of how Euryale and Steno became the feared Gorgons we see in literature, though many sources claim that the two sisters were turned into monsters for the perceived crime of standing with Medusa instead of being compliant with Athena's decision to punish her for being ravished in her temple. It was after the Gorgon sisters were wrongfully punished by Athena that their horrific transformation really began. Their anger for being wrongfully punished made them turn against the mortals of the world in spite. They would all go on to kill many men, though Steno would be the most vengeful of the three. 4. Medusa's time as a priestess for Athena. Though Medusa was known to be a desirable young maiden, she decided to pledge herself to Athena, the goddess she considered to be the most powerful of all those who resided on Mount Olympus. Her fondness of Athena was reciprocated for a time. It was a great compliment for Medusa to pledge her loyalty to Athena because of her great beauty, especially since one of the requirements to be a temple priestess was to remain a virgin. However, Medusa would not serve as a priestess for long. Soon after Medusa became a priestess for Athena, she caught the eye of Poseidon. This was partially because of her great beauty and partially because she was serving his rival, Athena. This presented Poseidon with a unique opportunity. He would be able to pursue Medusa as a love interest and assert his superiority as a more powerful deity. There are several variations with what happened next. Some versions claim that Medusa was swayed by Poseidon's advances and developed feelings for him as well. Others claim that she remained steadfast in her devotion to Athena. Regardless of which version is told, Medusa decides not to leave Athena's temple because of her devotion. This is when Poseidon decides to ravage Medusa in Athena's temple. Medusa becomes pregnant and is both angered and confused. 5. Medusa appeals to Athena. After being violated by Poseidon, Medusa is devastated. She doesn't know what to do. She had planned on devoting the rest of her life to Athena. She appeals to her goddess and asks for help in moving forward. There are many things that have to be figured out in this situation. The first is that Medusa is no longer a virgin, though she was deflowered against her will. The second is that because she lost her virginity to Poseidon, she is technically his wife according to the laws of the day. She appeals to Athena and asks that the goddess give her wisdom and advice in how to move forward. 6. Athena responds in anger. Athena is enraged that her temple has been desecrated, especially because it had been defiled by her rival, Poseidon. She doesn't have any sympathy towards Medusa. In fact, she puts all blame for the incident on Medusa and decides to punish her by transforming her into a monster that will be undesirable. There are several variations of the order of the events that come next, but the conclusion is always the same. Medusa is transformed into a terrible beast that has bronze hands and wings. In some variations her face is disfigured with a beard and fangs, and finally, her hair is transformed into venomous nest of snakes. Her sisters are also transformed. The reason for this varies. Many versions claim that the sisters were transformed because they defend Medusa and undermine the will of Athena. They are disfigured in a similar manner and they return to the island of Sarpedon. From this point on, the sisters are known to be vicious monsters that take their vengeance on any man that sets foot on their island. 7. Medusa as a monster. The character of Medusa changes greatly after Athena punishes her unjustly. She has difficulty reconciling with her new identity, but eventually comes to embrace her role and begins to take her vengeance on men, as this is one of the only ways that she can attempt to get even with Poseidon. However, she is also reclusive and does not leave her island often. Now that she has been transformed, there are many men that come to the island. No longer as suitors, but as hunters looking to behead her. As years go by, she becomes more and more vicious and vengeful. 8. Perseus is recruited to hunt Medusa. There are many different men that try, and fail, to hunt Medusa, until Perseus is contracted to bring back her head to King Polydectes. The king wishes to marry Perseus' mother, but Perseus won't allow it. As a trick, Polydectes tells Perseus to bring him the head of Medusa. Perseus complies and goes to the gods to help him on his journey. The gods give him gifts to help him on his journey. He uses these gifts to help him conquer Medusa. From Athena he receives a mirrored shield. From Hermes he receives winged sandals. From Hephaestus receives a sword. Lastly, from Hades he receives a helm of invisibility. Using these gifts he travels and gathers information that is vital to his quest. He then sneaks onto the island of Sephiros and beheads Medusa while she sleeps by using Athena's mirrored shield to guide his movements so that he does not have to look at Medusa directly. He tries to sneak off the island, but Medusa's body is discovered by her sisters before he can leave. They scour the island for Medusa's killer, but they are unable to find Perseus because of the gifts that were offered to him by the gods. He is able to escape unseen thanks to his helm of invisibility. The sisters are enraged, but unable to do anything but mourn. Euryale's cries echo through the island, an act for which she becomes most famous in mythology. 9. Medusa in death. Although Medusa's story has some relevance and symbolism before her tragic end, she arguably has the most influence in her death. Through her passing, she gives the world important contributions to mythology and medicine while also providing the public with a new form of protection. 10. Medusa's children come forth. For Medusa was pregnant at the time of her death, and when Perseus severed her head, her two unborn children, Chrysaor and Pegasus, suddenly sprang from her neck. 11. Other life springs forth. As Perseus traveled throughout the land, significant changes began to happen as the drops of blood from Medusa's head began to fall. As he flies over Libya, each drop of blood that falls to the ground transforms into a venomous viper. Because of this, Libya is still full of poisonous vipers to this day. Medusa's blood is also credited with creating the Amphisbaena, a fearsome creature that resembled a dragon and had a snake's head on the end of its tail. 12. Medusa's head is used to defeat Cetus. While flying through Ethiopia, Perseus spies the young princess Andromeda tied to a rock as a sacrifice to the sea monster Cetus. Andromeda is being sacrificed as a punishment to her mother, who was foolish enough to boast that her daughter was more beautiful than the Nereids. Perseus is able to overcome the monster with the powerful head of Medusa and is able to save Andromeda. Later she becomes his wife. 13. Medusa's head is used to save Perseus' mother. When Perseus finally returns from his quest, King Polydectes is astonished to see the young hero alive. He plots to kill Perseus so that he may marry the young hero's mother, but Perseus is able to stop the attack by using Medusa's head to turn Polydectes and his accomplices to stone. Thus, his mother is saved by the protective powers of Medusa. 14. Perseus gifts Medusa's head to Athena. After all the trouble that has been caused by Athena's betrayal of Medusa, the two are finally symbolically reunited when Perseus gives Medusa's head to Athena after he has completed his journey. Athena then puts the head on her shield, the Aegis. Athena also makes use of the remaining blood that still comes forth from Medusa's severed head. It is said that the blood that came from the left side of her head had the power to take life, while the blood from the right side of her head had the power to resurrect the dead. This power was given to Asclepius, who used it accordingly. It is also known that 2 drops of her blood were placed in a vial. Similarly to the above powers, 1 drop of blood had the cure to any disease or poison, while the other drop of blood was the most deadly power in the world. 15. Medusa becomes a protector. While Medusa was wrongfully punished by Athena and forced to live the rest of her life as a terrible monster, she experiences some redemption in death. Because her head was placed on Athena's shield and her blood was revealed to hold the power of both life and death, Medusa's head became a symbol of protection. Perhaps then, Medusa is a tale of the great injustice that suffered by those who have done no wrong, and the unimportance of these injustices to the greater powers of this world. For more interesting facts, stay with us, subscribe and turn on the notification by simply tapping the bell icon and selecting all. See you soon with a new video.